Okay, today we start Chapter 3 in Workplace and Apprenticeship 20. In this unit, we're going to look at a number of different three-dimensional objects and talk about how to find their area, their volume, and how much they can hold, which is called their capacity. Today we start with area, and specifically we're going to look at a prism. And a prism, as you can see on the screen in front of you, it's a three-dimensional shape that has ends that are the same shape. So if you look at one end compared to its opposite end, you're going to have the same shape. And so you can see there's some definitions here we need to make sure we're familiar with. An example of a type of question that you're going to have to deal with is identifying different shapes. So if we look at this fence and we look at the piece that makes up the gate, which is on the left-hand side, the piece that would make the top or the bottom or the sides are all this shape, which I would say is a rectangle. The cross piece, which is bracing that, likely would have this kind of shape, and if I just take it and rotate it a little bit, it ends up being a very familiar shape, at least comparing it to the pickets that are on the fence. That shape is called a trapezoid, and in fact it's called an isosceles trapezoid because opposite ends of the trapezoid, which I'll just highlight here with yellow, the opposite ends have the same angle. So these would both be considered isosceles trapezoids. And so at some point during your assignment, you're likely going to have to find the area of those and rectangles. A similar situation or question that you're going to run into is with a three-dimensional object, and you're going to be asked to find the surface area. What that means is if you were to lay the object out flat, which you can see is right here, I'm moving it around now, that is what we're going to need to find the area of. When you take a three-dimensional object and you flatten it out like it would be as if it were a box flattened, that diagram is called the net. So the white diagram is the net of the three-dimensional object, which kind of looks like a long tent, but really it's called an equilateral triangle prism. This triangle and this triangle can be found using this area formula here. The other three figures, 1, 2, 3, are rectangles, which are used or can be found using just simply length times width. Once you know all the areas, you would add them together and you would find the total area. While you're doing this type of work, you have to be careful to keep it organized. So if you're finding the area of a triangle, you should label that you're finding the area of the triangle. If you're finding the area of a rectangle, you should have a title just like they have here. And you should also watch out for units. I noticed this question that we have centimeters, centimeters, centimeters. All of them are in centimeters. We should definitely have centimeters in our answer as well. In fact, with area, it will be centimeters squared. So those are some of the details that you're going to have to sort out as you do your assignment. A similar question here is a wagon box. This wagon box is going to be 3 feet long. And you'll notice that in the diagram, we switched that to inches. And that is because the other two measurements, 18 inches, and 10 inches, which is the height, are given in inches. So we have to match units. So be careful of that when you are doing your assignment. So if you're asked to draw a net of the wagon, again, we're flattening it out and we're drawing it. Then to calculate the surface area, we here have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different rectangles that we would have to find the area of, and then we would have to add them together to get the total surface area. And then you'll have to do some work after you get the answer, such as, well, how many square feet is that if 1 square foot is 144 inches squared? Well, how many square feet fit into that box, into that wagon? And another question which I think is really great, well, if I only had a sheet of plywood, which is 4 feet by 8 feet, would I be able to make this? And if so, how many of them could I make if it's more than one? And so I think that's an important question for you to consider. Otherwise, here's your assignment, and you can get right to work on it. And if you have any questions while you work, please ask me. Otherwise, that's it.